Did you know that you can stream the best of HBO shows and more with the new Astro? Better than before, no rain interruptions, no repeats, just stream anytime and on demand via the Astro Ultra Box. It starts from only RM 59.90 a month, and you can find out more information at astro.com.my. You're listening to the Goggler podcast. Bahir and Uma with you. And we're here today to tell you that we were wrong. Over the last year, I think we've made a lot of jokes about how there is absolutely no need to find out how Willy became Wonka. We have laughed at that terrible, terrible trailer many, many times, only to be pleasantly surprised by the joy and delight that is actually Wonka. This is a prequel of sorts, not to the Johnny Depp version of Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, but to the Gene Wilder version of Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. And Timothée Chalamet plays a young Willy Wonka who pursues his dreams of becoming a chocolate maker. Like the original Gene Wilder movie, this is a full on musical, and it is directed by the director of Paddington 1 and 2, Paul King, which makes me very excited now for Paddington 3. As you all know, Paddington is one of my favorite movies of all time. I think it is a perfect movie. And I think Wonka rises to the level of being a great family holiday film.
I will say I still think I am right in saying this movie doesn't need to exist. But I will say I am glad it does. Like, I still don't need to know how Willy became Wonka. I think this movie does enough to give it a reason to exist.
For me, therein lies the rub, in the sense that I was perfectly happy not knowing any more about Cassian Andor. And I was like, why the hell do we need an Andor series? It genuinely doesn't need to exist. But when someone puts that much care into creating it, then I think it truly pays off. And Andor is the same thing. I think
Yes.
it was Disney and Lucasfilm cash grabbing at Disney
Mm.
Plus, going, hey, we need lots of streaming content. Let's see what you can do. And I think in the same way, it's Warner Brothers going, we have the rights to all of Roald Dahl's magnificent works. Why aren't we doing anything with it? And I think in lesser hands, it would have been a lesser movie. But
Yeah.
here, it feels like the people writing the music paid attention. Like, these are some catchy fucking tunes, and they
Yeah.
stick in your head. And then they don't ignore the Gene Wilder version. Pure imagination kind of, the bars open the movie. So there's an immediate acknowledgement of, hey, 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 don't worry. Even if you're a fan of the original, we know that you are, and we're not gonna fuck about with it. Like, I wasn't a fan of the Johnny Depp version. I know it got really
Same.
good reviews when it came out, but for me, Tim Burton's take was just a little too
Tim Burton.
Tim Burton-y, correct. Like, Gene Wilder was a weird character. He was an odd man playing Willy Wonka, and even in the books, Willy Wonka is a weird guy. But Tim Burton seems like a step too far.
I feel like the Tim Burton Willy Wonka was more like Tim Burton doing Willy Wonka. It didn't feel like the original where Gene Wilder was just a character, right? He wasn't trying to be this version or this thing that he wasn't, that the character wasn't. In the Johnny Depp one, suddenly there's Johnny Depp with these funky glasses and doing this thing
Michael Jackson,
and
baby.
just doing a voice and trying to be funny. Tim Burton, Johnny Depp, Willy Wonka was trying to be something. And I feel like it missed out on that.
This version of Wonka has genuine heart. I think the Tim Burton version did not. Like, this version of Wonka, as I was watching it, I kept thinking to myself, this is such a happy, joyous, positive movie that isn't afraid to be all of those things. Like, I can't remember the last time I was in a cinema and I left feeling happy with the world, as opposed to, God damn, the world's a miserable place.
I still go back to what I said. I don't think this movie needs to exist, but they did a good enough job that I'm happy it does. It doesn't fill a void in my life about what happened to Willy Wonka and how he became this chocolatier and how he built his factory. I didn't care about it then, but now I'm like, oh, okay, they've taken enough inspiration from a version of that story that I love. They've taken all the right lessons of the original story to heart and have decided to tell this story.
Yeah, and I think that's what these prequels, spin-offs, adaptations should strive to do. We've
Yes.
seen so many of them. Actually, most recently it was the Hunger Games, and that was actually a pretty accurate adaptation of the novel. And even that failed to capture the excitement of those original adaptations or even the novel,
Yeah.
right? It just felt too crammed, too long, too drawn out. And what I think they've done really well with Wonka is capture the spirit of Roald Dahl.
Yes.
Like Roald Dahl's books were great because they never shied away from darkness. The bad guys were really fucking villainous. They were
There
scary.
was always a chance for the bad guys to actually win in the
Haha.
stories,
Yeah,
right?
as a
Yeah.
kid, you were like, oh shit, this feels like real danger.
It's not a threat of danger. It's not just like a, oh, maybe they'll get out of it. I don't know. Find out in the next chapter. No, no. Roald Dahl's stories had always been, they had actual villains. The villains could have won, and Roald Dahl would have just told a story about how the villains won.
And in some of his short stories,
Yeah.
the villains all but win.
Yeah.
The good guys don't necessarily get away with everything.
Yes,
right?
exactly. Yeah.
And I think this one does that really, really well. I mean, they've clearly studied the work well enough to know how to draw those villains that you fear for Willy Wonka. I mean, you know how it turns out because you've seen what comes after. But at the same time, that sense of dramatic tension is still there throughout the film. And I thought that was done very well. I also thought they captured the spirit of the original music, which, as we know, is incredibly difficult to do. God knows we've seen Disney keep trying to add new songs to all of their live action adaptations of classic animated movies, and none of those new songs land. Like, they may be good within the context of the film, but you're not singing them months later. And I think with Wonka, the music is superb. Like, if the music was bad, like, even before we got to speak about it, the look on your face in the opening seconds of the film, because it opens with singing, you were like, whoa, musical.
I mean, the reason I was most surprised about that is because the studio has been trying just its damnedest and hardest to hide the fact that this thing's a musical.
It's so stupid, right? They always do that.
They always do it, and I'm the kind of dummy who thinks that the reason they're hiding it's a musical is because they don't want to get people too excited about the musical because it's only got 3 songs. When I see a musical with a trailer where there's no music in it, I'm thinking, oh, it's not a real musical. It's only got 2 songs. That's why they're hiding it.
No, they're hiding it because they know musicals make no money at the box office,
Yeah.
and they want to trick people.
Yeah.
Here's the problem with that logic, though. The problem with that logic is we live in the age of the internet. I don't think there's anyone out there who doesn't know it's a musical. So stop pretending, because then you just get people who don't like musicals getting cheesed off after they've bought tickets to see this.
For me, it's simple, I guess, in some ways. Just don't make musicals, lah. If you're so afraid of it, stop making musicals. Don't make the Mean Girls musical. Stop making the Grease TV show musical. Just don't make it, lah, if you're afraid.
Or even if you do, don't expect it to make $1 billion at the box office.
Don't need it to make $1 billion at the box office.
Right, accept the fact that it is for a niche audience. Then at least make it for that niche audience, because you know you will cater to their tastes and make something good.
Anyway, look, I think you're right. I think the first lines that open this movie is a musical. There's no setup, there's no young baby Charlie and just sort of walking out. No, there are no lines here. It just opens with music, and it's a great song.
But that said, I think they're very smart in keeping the vast majority of the songs quite short.
Mm,
And so it doesn't bring the film to a
yes.
grinding halt.
Yeah.
Like a lot of modern day musicals, even La La Land, for example, going into the songs never feel as natural as they should be. It's not like the Rodgers and Hammerstein stuff. It feels a little abrupt. And what's great about Wonka is that it feels like one of those old fashioned musicals. It actually serves the story, and it serves it very, very well.
Because the music isn't a musical number. It's that description of musicals of how You feel so strongly about something that you have to burst out into song to say it. Just normal
Yes.
words is not enough. And I feel like Wonka does that very well. Whereas with something like La La Land, it's just like, okay, it's time for a musical number. I really enjoyed Wonka. I think Chalamet's performance is. This is almost the Chalamet we see a lot in those SNL clips. It's not the super serious, I'm Paul Atreides Chalamet or I'm eating dead humans, whatever, right? It's not super serious actor Timothy Chalamet. This is fun Timothy Chalamet, and it was great to see.
I think it's also cool to see Timothy Chalamet do all of these different things because it really shows some tremendous range on his part. And he is really watchable as a song and dance man.
Yeah.
It really works. I think Keegan Michael Key is very funny in
I
this.
feel like there's not enough Keegan Michael. No,
There could be more Keegan Michael
not,
Key, you're
not
right.
only just more, but I wish his role was, excuse the pun, meteor.
Hey,
I wish Rowan Atkinson's role was a little meteor because the both of them just
same.
feels like cameo appearances.
But I also feel like the both of them, when they are in movies like this, always feel like glorified cameos. It always feels like such a waste because you have these two great comedic actors. And when they come on screen, they're really good. But you want more from them. Also, I have to say, the writing is absolutely tremendous. And not just the music writing, but the general storytelling writing. Because I think the way it embraces silliness and uses silliness doesn't feel out of place. And that takes real skill. It's the same with Paddington. Like when you're watching Paddington or Paddington 2, there are moments that would feel incredibly silly, out of place, a little too much and
Yeah,
over the top,
yeah,
but it's the execution. Like here, there is a moment when he needs to get giraffe milk and they have to do a small heist in a zoo. And it's a ludicrous, absurd moment, but they make it feel so heartfelt. Like Timothy Chalamet, Willy Wonka's interaction with the CGI giraffe is so beautiful and heartfelt that you're all in almost immediately.
I would put that down to the writing because when I saw the trailer and when you first see people start floating up into the sky because they've eaten a Wonka chocolate, I felt like that was kind of ridiculous. I was like, what is going on here? Why are they floating? But you have to remember what the original movie was. The original Gene Wilder story was, what the original book is, that these are the kind of super magical extra things that happen. But because it's permeated throughout the way a Roald Dahl story is, none of it feels completely out of place, right? When that happens kind of about halfway through the film, when Wonka announces he needs giraffe milk, I was like, oh, okay, cool. Let's go get some giraffe. Because I was on board. I was there already.
No, but I think it works because you were on board.
Yeah.
So the writing was very smart in setting up all of those moments from the daydream sequence at the very beginning of the film, the song and dance daydream sequence, to the people flying, to him making chocolate out of a little cabinet in his
Yep.
room, to wanting to get giraffe milk, to the Oompa Loompa. Suddenly you're accepting
Yes.
all of these moments in the movie because they've set you up for it. Like it's good writing. And I think it also should be said, even if you aren't a fan of musicals, I think because this is executed so well, it feels like nobody called the original Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory a musical. Nobody called Chitty Chitty Bang Bang a musical.
Yes.
It had songs in
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
It's like no one refers to any Bollywood movie as a musical.
Mm.
It just feels like the song and dance stuff is a part of that storytelling. And I think that's what this is. The song and dance stuff is a part of the storytelling. It is not where every other line is sung
Yes. Yeah.
almost.
Yeah. Correct. Yep.
So I think even if you aren't a fan of musicals, go watch this. I'm pretty sure your kids are going to love it.
Here's the other example, right? If you say you're not a fan of musicals, then you have to tell me you don't like Disney's Aladdin or Disney's Little Mermaid.
Correct.
Because this is a musical the way those are musicals.
Exactly.
I can see, I think you're a weirdo, but if you tell me you don't like something like Singing in the Rain, or if you don't like a Ginger Rogers, Gene Kelly thing, then I get, like, yeah, those can be a little.
You're still a weirdo.
You're still a
but we
weirdo, but
understand.
we get it, right? But if you tell me you don't like musicals, then you have to also tell me you don't like The Little Mermaid. You don't like Aladdin. And I think if you don't like Aladdin, you have to return the heart that God gave you because you don't need it.
We have never been this delighted to be wrong. Because this
Yes.
one really, I had such low expectations,
Yeah.
man. I've seen that trailer so many times because they keep playing it in cinemas, and it really made me cringe. I was like, ugh, another one of these.
And I think that was the problem, right? Like the way the trailer is put together. Like I've read descriptions that say Wonka is a musical, but they try and hide it so hard. You don't see any of the dances. It's always at the end of a dance move where Chalamet is walked up to a camera. Suddenly, on top of that, you see these floating things, and you see these. He's holding a gaggle of balloons and floating through the sky. The trailer removes all of the magic that requires for those sequences to exist by removing the music. So I was really down on the trailer. But when I saw the film, I it all sort of really worked out together and I loved it.
I loved it too.
Just a quick random bit of information that I just literally found out 2 minutes ago. Patterson Joseph, who plays Arthur Slugworth, sort of like the lead head honcho of the villains, he is actually the chancellor of my university.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, October 2022, he was announced as the Chancellor of Oxford Brookes University. I was like, oh, that's pretty cool.
That's nice.
That's
There you go,
nice.
Bahir. You are now only 3 degrees of separation from Timothy Chalamet.
Yeah, that's about right. Yeah, I could do that. I take that.
If we count Oxford Brookes as a unit,
As a unit
of
of separation, that's true.
Yes.
Yeah, cool.
There you go.
Nice one.
There you go.
Alrighty.
All right. Wonka is now showing in Malaysian cinemas. We urge you to go check it out, especially, parents, you've had slim pickings over the last few
Oh,
months.
yeah.
If all you've had is Trolls 3, then prepare to be thrilled, because this is not just a movie for your kids. This is a movie for you too.
It is also a movie to be seen on the big screen. Like, I know we say it all the
it's amazing.
time.
The set pieces are tremendous.
I know we say it all the time, but I don't care how big a TV you have. It will never have that kind of awe-inspiring thing of a big screen. This is the movie for it.
But also just the collective oohs, ahs, and laughter
Yeah.
that you will get from this movie. That
Absolutely.
this movie
Yeah.
will inspire. Also, just keep a chocolate bar on you. I was craving chocolate by the end of this movie. I was like, I really need to go and buy some chocolate right now. Go watch Wonka. You won't be disappointed. Once you do, let us know what you think. You can reach out all of our social media feeds, GogglerMY. You can also email us on podcast@goggler.my or send us a WhatsApp on the Goggler hotline 012-524-5208. If you drop us a line on any one of those channels, we'll send you a link to join our brand new Discord server where you can chat with us in real time. Thank you so much for listening. This is the Goggler Podcast.